Hey, JD here. Welcome to the Mead House. You know, over the past several years, we've brought you over 150 episodes of mead-making education, information, and entertainment. More than 100 guests have stopped by the Mead House, professional mead makers, medal-winning home mead makers, competition organizers, experts on yeast and honey, and brewers just like you and me have all visited to share their knowledge. Hey, the Mead House is produced for home mead makers and brewers looking for a bit of inspiration and information from the many guests and discussions we have here at the house. You can help support the Mead House by joining the Mead House Keyholder Club on Patreon. Just go to patreon.com and search for the Mead House. There's also a link in the show notes. For as little as $2 a month, you can become a keyholder. We've teamed up with some great companies to provide thank you gifts for your support, so get on over to Patreon, join the Mead House Keyholder Club, and get your own set of keys to the Mead House. You can listen to the Mead House podcast with your favorite player, and be sure to rate us 5 stars on iTunes or your favorite listening venue. The Mead House, mead-making entertainment you just don't want to miss. All right, rolling again. All right, here we go. Hey, welcome to the Mead House, and thanks for listening to episode, I should say welcome back to the Mead House. We've been gone for a couple of weeks, so of course all of our listeners know we have a 6-2 schedule here at the house. We like to take a break every now and again, but hey, thanks for listening to episode number 170. Hey, I was just laying some brick out in the backyard when Jeff and Ryan showed up. I'm JD Webb, and I'll probably have to trim the hedges after they leave. Hey, I know you know where you can listen to the Mead House podcast. iTunes, Stitcher Radio, Spotify, iHeart. They're all listed on the front page of the website if you want to go take a gander. That's the meadhouse.com. Hey, in this episode, anybody do anything worth retelling over the last 2 weeks? Hey, we'll pass the mic around the table and find out. And then to carb or not to carb? We'll talk about a couple of methods of carving. Jeff's got an idea that he wants to toss around here a little bit. And we know that Ryan's talked about using all kinds of different kinds of stuff to bottle carve. So we'll get into that for a little bit. And then in segment 3, of course, back to the Facebook and Reddit friends. This is where we try to answer questions from mead makers with no formal expertise other than what we've experienced in our own brew house. Hey, all that and more here at the Mead House. But first, hey, thanks to all the Mead House key holders who help keep the Mead House podcast free. You too can become a Mead House key holder and help support the show for as little as $2 a month. We've got some great thank you gifts that Jeff will send out to you. Get on over to patreon.com and search for the Mead House, or do the easy thing. Just click on the link in the show notes. Hey, what are we drinking here tonight? I want to start this. I got who is it? I think it was Ryan. I get this box, okay? I had no clue it was coming. And I think the wife and I were out to breakfast someplace, and we get home, and here's this giant box sitting on my doorstep. What the hell? Who's sending me stuff? And of course, they take one look at the label, and lo and behold, it came from Minnesota. So I knew who that came from. And inside, I'm still drinking the stuff that was inside the box. And this has been like a couple of weeks ago. So in the box was some Monk's Mead, and one of the ones that my wife and I shared. Here upon the box arriving, we stuck it in the freezer and let it sit in there for about 45 minutes or so, and then poured a couple of glasses. It was the Stigmata, I believe it's called, guys. That hibiscus, rose petal, elderflower with the hops. And I'll tell you, my wife finished off her glass and then started reaching for mine. She really liked it, and so did I. That was a really refreshing, nicely carved, very tasty, Something that would have been a good on a day like today here in my part of the town where it was over 100 degrees. So Monk's Mead, good stuff there. I'm two-fisting it tonight. I've got another Monk's Mead that I haven't even tasted yet. I just grabbed a Tom Collins glass and dumped it into that. This is called Butter Buzz. It's a charming blend of vanilla, spice, and maple. So here goes nothing. Oh, my word. How did they do that? Holy cow. Let me read this last. Charming blend of vanilla, spice, and maple. My God. How did they get that? Mm. Mm-mm-mm. This is, dude, you want to drink this like a piece of cheesecake or something. This is
that the butterscotch?
It's got kind of a butterscotchy flavor to it. Whatever the spice side they put in. I mean, it says vanilla, spice, and maple. Where the butterscotch is coming from, I have no clue. But it does have a butterscotch-like taste to it, and the vanilla is right there. There is some minimal spices, but they're in there. You can absolutely tell they're there. And the maple, my God, on the back end, holy cow! Man, you'd almost want to pour this over a stack of pancakes.
Pretty sweet.
No, very, very. I mean, you'd have a heck of a time, Ryan. You would like this. This would be right up your alley. No, it's not what I would call a sweet meat. This isn't even it's not even a semi-sweet. It's not even a. It's just barely, and you get just a hint, a mild hint, right on the tip of the tongue where your sweet senses are, but it from front to back. I mean, you absolutely get the vanilla, the spices, and then it finishes with this maple on the back of the palate. Dude, I'm telling you, this is amazing. This is probably one of the most amazing meads that I've ever tasted. How they're getting all these flavors in there is beyond me. Again, I mean, this is right off the can. Charming blend of vanilla, spice, and maple. A butterscotch mead, they call it. Butter Buzz, a butterscotch mead. So where the, reading the ingredients right here on the can, I have no idea where they're getting the butterscotch from. But wow. This is definitely a dessert mead. But it's not sometimes dessert meads are on the sweeter side. You'd want to do that with some kind of a savory dish, cheese plate or something. This is not that kind of a meat. This is something you'd want it. I would pour a glass of this and have a piece of New York cheesecake with it. This is really outstanding. I'm telling you, this is really good. Mm-mm-mm. Wow.
Yeah, I think I got to try that one over the break, and no, I really enjoyed that one myself. I mean, it like you said, it's not sweet, but it has that kind of that body and thickness to it that's really, it tastes like a dessert mead, and it was not cloying or anything like that. But the flavor I got wasn't precisely like the Werther's original butterscotch flavor, but I could kind of get where they were going with the butterscotch idea.
Sure.
And yeah, no, it was a real nice one.
Yeah, this is it drinks quick. Okay, and by that I mean once you swallow, it's done. There's nothing left. You got to take another swallow to appreciate everything that went into it. And then you take the next swallow, and as soon as you swallow, it's done. Really, no residual, lasting, lingering flavors of any of those, vanilla, spice, or maple. But I tell you, even the maple, if they use that to do some kind of a back sweetening or something, or even some kind of I don't know, a wood or something that they used to get that maple flavor. I mean, this is completely amazing because it doesn't have that back sweetening taste. It's not sweet at all, but the maple, oh my God, it's like right in your face. It's right there along with everything else. So good job, Monk's Mead. Okay, enough of that. Hey, in my other fist, went bourbon shopping here a few days back and picked up a new bourbon I haven't tried. This is called Bishop. It's a straight bourbon whiskey, and this is actually bottled in Texas. And I don't know, I didn't get a chance to look up the distillery, but I believe it's out of Texas as well. Texas is a kind of an up and comer in the whiskey world. Some pretty good whiskeys and bourbons coming out of Texas. This is 80 proof, so it's kind of on the smoother side, not real hot. The nice thing about this one is bourbons. We know that they're at least 51% corn. That's usually where that sweet component comes from. This has got to be up there in the corn category because there's a very nice sweetness, kind of a mild sweetness that comes on the front of the tongue. And then you start picking up those telltale signs of the caramels. A real light caramel here, nothing like a dark caramel or dark brown sugar. Very light. And then, of course, mid to late palate, you start getting into that woodsy vanillas, that barrel char a little bit. It finishes with a little bit of that barrel char flavor. Now there's a reason I select bourbons to soak wood in, to put in to some of my projects, okay? And it's all based on some of these flavors that I get out. I wouldn't use anything more than, say, 85, 84 proof, because then you're kind of getting into that hot stuff. I'd use a nice, smooth 80 proof bourbon or whiskey, if that's your choice, to soak some wood in. And here's the deal: you just want to get the wood soaked all the way through, and then pull the wood out, and then put it in the project. This thing about soaking wood for weeks on end, all you're doing at that point is you're just impregnating the whiskey that you poured in over the wood. Okay, so and I found that that brings out some of the bitterness that's kind of unwanted at that point. So just soak your wood. It just takes 3 or 4 days. Pull the wood out, put it in your project, and then dump the rest of the whiskey in on top of it if that's your choice. This is one that I would definitely soak some wood in because all the flavors are there. The light brown sugars, the vanillas, a little bit of that barrel char. I would definitely soak some wood in this one. So Bishop, straight bourbon whiskey. That's what's in my other hand. Jeff, what did you put in your glass tonight? Knock, knock, Jeff. Take your mute off, Jeff.
Mute button, sorry. So in Mead House fashion, I am double fisting it tonight as usual. In my first glass, well, it is my birthday Saturday, and my wife decided to spoil me rotten.
Happy birthday.
She went out. Thank you. She went out and got me some imported Czech beer, some Belgian beer, some Scotch. Really broke the bank to get me lots of good stuff to have in the fridge for this weekend. I am drinking in my first glass a Pilsner Urquell, which is, it's a Czech lager. This is probably like the first really well-made beer I ever had. It's light. It's got a huge amount of that Saaz floral hop character to it, but it's not bitter. It's just very, it's in there in the smell and the flavor. Kind of just has a soft spot in my heart for being, one of the first really good beers I ever got to try as a young 19-year-old.
Hmm.
In my other glass, I have a. Well, this is going to lead into that. What did we do over the break? And this is going to also kind of lead into that whole carbonation issue that we're talking about now. But I have a braggot that I made, and it's pretty. It's similar in style to the Ryan's shed braggot that he made. A couple major differences, though, that I was using whole grains because I had that. If you guys remember that, like 55-pound bag of Pilsen mold that I picked up at Valkyrie's Horn last year.
Yeah,
needed to do something with that, so I used that as my primary grain. I actually didn't put any other like specialty grains in it. It's just straight Pilsen. It's got some orange blossom honey, and I played around with the hops a little bit. I did a lot more dry hopping than the hop stand in this case, and I may do the hop stand next time. But yeah, no, it's nice, light, it's refreshing. It's fermented on Voss at I think I kept it at a pretty constant 95 degrees. So lots of that like orange pithy character to it you get from the Voss. Just a nice summer drinker. So yeah, that's what's my glass.
Sounds good. You know those Saaz hops, I love those. I love those in a Pilsner. One of the things on my little notepad here, I want to do just a straight up, braggot, just, malt and honey, and use those Saaz hops and see if I can't get close to a nice, refreshing summertime, heavily carbed, like a good Pilsner, or a good lager, and, use those Saaz hops, maybe in a hop stand, do the Ryan thing with the hop stand, let them sit in there for 12 hours at, 28 degrees or whatever. What is it? What do you do, Ryan? An ounce a gallon for how long?
I do about an ounce a gallon at about 30 minutes ish, and I do it. I try to wait till it gets below 180 or right around 180, kind of between, you start to extract a lot of different flavors between 180 and 165, 160. So, you could do 180, you could do 175, 170, 165. But I definitely like to get into the, that 180 range or so usually, where again, you start to get some really different flavors than if you take it off and you're at 210.
Right.
Or 200 or something like that.
Yeah, good stuff. All right. Well, Ryan, I guess it's your turn. What did you put in your glass tonight?
I've been doing a lot of. I was going to say I've been doing a lot of drinking, and I was going to try something classier.
Me too.
Like I've been doing a lot of sampling, but no, I guess I'll have to stay with simple. I've been doing a lot of drinking. And what I've been drinking is it's interesting. We've got the little mead make number 4 coming, any week here.
Yeah, like any day, right?
Yeah, I mean, really, it could be any day to the next few weeks, really. So Andrea, my wife, when she found out she was pregnant again, she kind of missed drinking. She kind of misses it, and having a nice glass of wine or a nice beer or a nice whiskey or something, and she likes me to support her. I shouldn't straight up and say, hey, I don't want you to drink.
Yeah,
but. I mean,
if I can't drink, you can't drink.
Yeah, she didn't say that, but she did, mean that she didn't want to make it hard on her, that kind of a thing. So it's been very rare that I've had anything she would enjoy. Right. So a nice Pilsner or a nice pale ale or a nice saison or a nice wheat beer or a nice red wine or a white wine or a whiskey. I mean, if she smelt the whiskey, she would really say, you're not supporting me. So I've been drinking a lot of stuff where she takes a whiff of and she's like, go sit on the other side of the room.
Go sit on the other
You know,
side. Yeah.
you know, like a sour
Put a paper
beer,
bag around your glass.
yeah. She doesn't like sours. She doesn't like Brett's. She doesn't like some of the funky stuff. She doesn't like certain meads and things like that. So I've been drinking a lot of the stuff where I figure if I've got a cup and she gets a whiff of whatever I'm drinking and she's like, oh, go away, go to the other side of the room. I'm doing well. Yeah. So I've been drinking a lot of the stuff that I, haven't been drinking otherwise, because a lot of times I'll drink we'll share something. So that's where I've been working through a lot of the back catalog of the stuff. I've been working through a lot of the back catalog, and some of the stuff ends up going in the Infinity bottle. So the Infinity bottle has had about, I don't know, 10 or 12 more editions since the last time,
Wow.
we spoke. And I don't even know what's in it right now. I don't know what's in it. I know it's not, it's what's in my cup. Sometimes I cut it with a flavored seltzer water,
mm-hmm.
which is what I'm doing tonight. But put it this way, it's fine. I like it, but this isn't something I'm going to sit down with a world's finest, BJCP panel and start to discern.
Yeah.
So it's just a drinking mead. Let's put it that way.
There you go. Just a drinking mead. Poor Andrea. Oh yeah, go sit in the other room. Put a paper bag around that glass.
Yeah.
Oh my God, dude! I still can't. I'm still drinking this butterscotch thing. Man, I cannot get over this. Wow, Ryan, if you haven't had this yet, you need to try it.
It's in the fridge. You got it in the fridge. Just haven't opened it yet.
You're gonna be shocked. I mean, you're just gonna be shocked. I mean, I don't know how they. I don't know. I would like to talk to them again. Because I want to know about this. I mean, I get the vanilla and the spices and everything, but the maple got me a little bit confounded because, maple. I mean, you can't just put maple in the ferment because that just eats it up. I mean, the yeast just eats it all up, and you get very little flavor left out of it. That's been my experience and everything that I've read and heard, and even people we've talked to. So whatever they're using to get that maple, I want to find out how they're doing that. That's for sure. And then that butterscotch, where's that butterscotch coming from? I mean, it says right on the can, vanilla, spice, and maples. Now, I don't know what's in the spice. I mean, I could sit here, for, I don't know, maybe an hour and maybe try to pick it apart here and come up with a few spices that they might have. But, Jeff, were you able to pick out any kind of a definite specific spice at all?
No. I mean, honestly, I was kind of just noodling the whole butterscotch angle while I was drinking it. Like you said, it drinks fast. So
yeah.
If I remember right, it was the end of I was just starting my new job, like when we took a break last time, and I wandered out onto the back porch one day after work, happy, satisfied, and, just cracked one open and decided, oh yeah, I'll drink this. And man, it was gone fast.
I mean, I'm just blown away. Seriously. I mean, you talk about the, I think we've talked about perceived sweetness, Ryan, before. This has a perceived sweetness without being sweet. Okay, I mean it's all.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, I mean it's all there. I mean, there's no mistaking. I mean, it has this perceived sweetness that's just unbelievable. Because, like I said, when you take a swallow and you down it, and I mean, there's nothing left. There's no lingering flavors. There's no lingering spices. No, it's all gone. I mean, it just makes you want to reach and take another swallow. I mean, it's just amazing. So we got to have these guys back on again so I can figure out what the hell they did to get to this. Just, simply amazing. To carb or not to carb, we spent some time talking about this. Sometimes it usually comes up through Facebook friends, I think. We get questions all the time about carving this and carving that, and what do you use, to carb. Ryan's talked about how he's achieved his bottle carving by using different, different things like fruit juices, different honeys, plain sugar, powdered sugar, agave syrup, whatever. And then of course the flip side is just put it like I do, just put it all in a keg, hook it up to your CO2 deal, and just carb the crap out of it. I mean, it's a no-brainer for me. I mean, I got these lids that have this little dongle thing that dangles down into the thing with a little air stone on it. It's got a CO2 connector right on the top there. I just plug it in and I crank the CO2 up to like 40, 50, 60 pounds. I leave it there for usually about 24 to 48 hours, and then I dial it back down and pull the CO2 off of it and just leave it sit. And usually takes less than a week, and it's nicely carved. So, Jeff, you've been looking at some other, let's call it an unusual way or an unusual method. Is that a good way to describe it? Help me out here.
Kind of, sort of. Yeah. I've been noodling this. I forget the video I saw it in on YouTube, but Homebrew was making some beer and was using a particular method to ferment it in. He was actually fermenting under pressure. And I don't know if you guys will recall way back, episode 88, we had, I believe it was Joe Kurkowski from White Labs on, and he mentioned that they have a high-pressure lager strain that you can actually ferment at room temperature to achieve that lageriness. And the way that this homebrewer in the video was fermenting and carving at the same time was he was using a spunding valve under pressure. And for those that aren't familiar with the term, spunding valve is basically like it's a pressure check, and you can set it for how high of a pressure you want to ferment under. So, you want to ferment 5 psi, 10 psi, 15 psi, whatever. You set that valve, and then if the pressure exceeds that, it will bleed it off until it reaches back to whatever you set it at. So there's always that constant pressure. You don't get an explosion. And I thought, this is, for the most part, I'm a force carb kind of guy because it's just so easy to do. This project that I was talking about, my second glass tonight, I decided to bottle carb it because I don't have room in my freezer at the moment to put a keg in there and get it cold. I don't really have a kegerator at the home. So the solution I came up with was, well, hell, I'll just, I'll prime it with some honey and let it sit, see what happens. And,
sure.
Historically, this has not worked for me because I've been doing really heavy brackets in that, 10 to 12% range, that there's just not a lot left for the yeast to chew on before it really hits alcohol tolerance and kind of gives up.
Yeah.
But I figure this guy is in that 6-7% range. It's probably got a few legs left on it. And it worked out really well, actually. But this idea of fermenting under pressure and having something that is already carved when it comes out of the fermenter and goes into the keg is kind of novel and interesting. So, obviously I need to source some equipment to put a spunding valve together, but I'm seriously considering this as an option for making a nice light summertime drinking lager, even though we're running out of summer at this point, and getting that process going to where I can just tap a keg or use the beer gun and put it in bottles right away rather than having to wait for the bottle carb for a couple of weeks. So yeah, curious about this, and I may just try and make this work.
Yeah, I don't know, for the past 8-9 months, I guess, I've been looking at Spike Brewing and SS Brewtech at the conical systems that they have. And both of the ones that I'm looking at both places, they have these conicals that you can ferment under pressure. They're built for that.
Yeah. The unit tanks where you can also like use it as a bright tank kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. So kind of toying around with the idea of maybe getting involved with something like that. I mean, I wouldn't mind trying that. I mean, that sounds like a cool way of brewing to me, fermenting. So, Ryan, what do you think? I mean, this is certainly an alternative to, what we've always talked about here on the show.
Yeah, I don't have a lot to add on this one. I always bottle carb and really enjoy that. I've talked a lot about why I enjoy it, why I like it, and I don't need to go into that again right now. I might go into it again in the future at some point, but for right now, I don't think so. But yeah, I like what he's saying.
So are you telling us that the brew room's turning into a nursery?
Oh no.
No.
We got the nursery set up. The Mead House North has plenty of space. The new Mead House North has plenty of space, so we got all kinds of room. Time we might not have.
Yeah.
We got that.
There you go. Good deal. Well, hey, so we've been off for a couple of weeks. I got to fess up. I didn't do a damn thing with brewing. I had just recently purchased a very high-end photo printer, large format photo printer, and have been giving it real serious attention, printing photos and spending time with my photography friend, working on some photos and shopping for matte papers and whatnot, so I can get into getting some of this stuff. And I've got thousands of pictures, It's a hobby, the alternate hobby to my brewing hobby. When I can get outside and go places and do things, I take my cameras and got a pretty nice setup, and I enjoy it. And so I've got these thousands and thousands of pictures that sit on various hard drives in my computer, and I mean, for the last several years it's been just open up a folder and look at them type of thing. I'll post a few of them up on the Facebook. I've got a 500px site that I put them up on once in a while. So I really didn't do anything as far as brewing goes. I mean, I drank a lot of tasty meads, I should say. Me and my neighbors pretty much polished off all the kegs that I did have in a kegerator, so I do need to get back to brewing again. So that being said, just devoting a lot of time to my other hobby, that I needed to. So plus there's kind of there's a little bit of madness to my deal here. We're taking a big trip next year back to the East Coast to visit with my little sister and some friends back in North Carolina. And so there's a couple of projects that I want to work on for my little sister to get some photos matted up and framed and everything, and so she can hang on her walls at her house. So, like I said, I had to fess up, guys. I'm sorry. I apologize to all my listeners out there. I didn't do a damn thing as far as brewing goes. I drank a lot, if that helps. Ryan, I mean, you said a mouthful already. You got a little one coming. You've got a lot of meads, beginning to pile up again, I guess. Were you able to do any kind of brewing, or what was your 2-week hiatus like?
Well, I don't really have meads piling up. I've got bottles piling up because I'm emptying the bottles. But so I just said that I've been drinking a lot of the stuff that Andrea doesn't like, so that it doesn't seem like I'm not supporting her, because I'm a wonderful supportive.
Wonderful husband, yes.
Yes, husband, exactly. So what I did though, I sketched out a few batches, and I got to get moving on them because when she can drink, she's gonna want a nice a nice beer or a braggot or a glass of wine or something like that. Well, I've got wine that I can bottle. I've got some wine that I need to bottle. Oddly enough, so when we left Mead House North, the original Mead House North, I had to put everything in bottles, right?
Yep.
Every bottle I had was completely filled. I had to borrow some bottles, I mean, I'll thank him again here. Matt Whitey came over and dropped off, some partial cases, for me to keep bottling and great stuff. Well, then, I decided that I was going to get rid of corked bottles, right? I'm going to process out the corked bottles and just go to Crown Cap. So I went through like 75 or those 75, 76, whatever, how many of those corked bottles, and drank those up and got rid of them. Well, then I had to bottle this. I'm ready to bottle this wine, and I start thinking about it. I go, I don't have any bottles to put them in because I drank all the corked bottles, and then I got rid of them. So now I'm like, oh my gosh, now I got to worry about the other bottles, the Crown Caps, the bomber bottles that I want to put these in.
Yeah.
So I started saying, okay, I got to work through some bomber bottles, but then I should say in the meantime I'd been working through all the stuff that Andrea didn't like. So, and those were like in 12-ounce bottles. So it's been a game of Tetris over here of trying to, I first got rid of the cork bottles, and then I was drinking the stuff Andrea doesn't like, and now I got a bottle of batch of wine, so I gotta drink bomber bottles, and I've been doing pretty good on that, but I also gotta make a couple of beers here. We've always done at the hospital is like. I think when our first two kids were born, we brought a bottle of champagne, and they get a little mini fridge, at the hospital when you get a little room, and we put a bottle of champagne in there, and we cracked it when the baby was born, and I did a little toast and had a glass of champagne, and then when I think we did that for the first two kids, then on the third one, I think we did some beer. She really wanted this wheat beer that she likes, and we bought a 6-pack of that and put that in the mini fridge, and so it's not to sound like we're all about the sauce over here, but just a little sip or a little nip now and then is just a nice little thing to do. So
now the world knows that Andrea is pregnant, and we're sitting here talking about alcohol and consumption and what are we're probably going to get some hate mail from our listeners. What do you mean you're giving Andrea all this liquor?
Well, she didn't have any when she was pregnant. She didn't have any until we did a toast when the baby was born. That was
there
it.
Go.
The first we had a champagne toast, and then I think the third one we did a beer toast.
There you go.
So anyway, I think I got to brew some beers. I'm trying to go with this. I got to brew some beer. I've been planning out because I want to do a couple of batches. I want to do a big brew day.
Yeah.
Where I'll do like 2 or 3 batches, in the single day, and then get that. So I've got that planned out. Of what I'm gonna do. Made sure I got all the ingredients. I think I gotta go get one more pack of yeast, but I want to do that so that when the baby's born and Andrea says she wants half a glass of beer or something like that, I've got something she likes, ready to go, and so I did some preliminary planning and getting that ready, and then we'll be good. So I'm about ready. I think I'm gonna have to drink 1 or 2 more bottles to have enough to bottle the wine, and then I'll get the beers going, and we'll be set.
Drinking with a purpose.
Yes.
Yeah. Not the purpose that most people think, but drinking with a purpose.
Drinking with a purpose. I'm doing this for you, honey.
I'm doing. Does she ever listen to these episodes? Don't hide this one from her.
If I say, here, listen to this segment, then she'll do it.
Yeah. Oh, jeez. Andrea, we all love you, sweetheart. Jeez. Oh, my God. What a time up there in Mead House North, up there in Minneapolis. Anyway, hey, Jeff, you also had a couple of weeks off, so I hope you didn't spend all that time working. So were you able to accomplish anything in the brew room at all?
Well, I caught up on my bottling somewhat. Got a few batches, including the one I already talked about. I had a nice little wine that I was sitting on and got that guy bottled. I have one more beer that's carved up and ready to go into bottles. And I got to do some thinking, like, okay, well, all of my fermenters are empty at the moment, and that's a problem. What do I want to do next? And I got to thinking, and went, oh, it's getting close to that fall, winter time.
Yeah.
I better have something tasty to drink. And of course, I've actually got a couple like stout porters that got made last year and are in bottles already. And I've still got some of those left over. So kind of good there. But I really ought to have something, good for just, bringing over and sharing at the holidays. And then I came to this realization that, as part of that whole New Year's resolution, I've been paring stuff down, and all of my bottles are full. And if I come home with more boxes of bottles, just so that I have somewhere to put more projects, pretty sure my wife is going to shoot me. So, instead I've been, kind of like, okay, well, then I guess it's time to empty some bottles.
There you go. I came. Like I told you at the top of the segment, I've been giving a lot of attention to my photography and working with this large format printer and everything. Well, I went out and bought some photo paper today. And pre-show, I was telling Ryan that I had bought. It was like $160 worth of photo paper, but it's only like 75 sheets. So my wife, she says, so how much did you spend on paper? Or no, she says, so what did that paper cost? I said, $150. And she says, why so much? I said, honey, it's only paper. So that's, oh my God, I got to quit doing that too. So I know where you're going with that.
It's not like this paper stuff grows on trees, honey.
Yeah. Well, it's paper I didn't have before, hon. Anyway, so enough of that. I'm still drinking this thing from Monk's Mead, this Butter Buzz. Man, I can't get over this thing. Ryan, you got to drag that thing out of the refrigerator and just crack it open and have some. I mean, it's just, you're going to be amazed, I'm sure. Good stuff. Well, hey, so brewing season just hasn't ground to a halt. So I got plans too. So I'll get back into brewing. I'm a little bit late on my cider. Usually I get a cider started before summer. It sits in a keg until winter. It takes it that long to mature and come around. Apples, you know how apples are. So a lot of things planned. Just got to find the time to get it all together and get it done. So one of our favorite segments here at the house is, of course, this Facebook friend, Reddit friends. We have a kick answering a lot of these questions. Some of them, to some of our listeners out there, some of them will seem kind of mundane and not real exciting or anything, but others are like just off the rocker. And we like answering every single one of them. And, we give it a lot of attention here at the house. So up with our first one, this may be a leftover, guys. Correct me if we have answered this already, but I'm reading off the list. Converting a beer recipe into a braggot. I'm wondering if anyone has any advice on taking a tried and true homebrew beer recipe that I've made successfully in the past and simply adding enough honey so that my fermentables are basically doubled. So to say a 5% beer, adding enough honey to get up around 10% would just work. Uh, am I going to have to use a more alcohol tolerant yeast strain? Are there going to be enough nutrients in the honey wort that will ferment fully? Or am I going to need to add yeast nutrients and possibly up my pitch rate? Is there anything else I should watch out for? Thanks for any input. I'm not sure, Ryan, if we answered this question before.
Um, I'll, you know, we I think we might have taken something similar if it wasn't a similar line of questioning.
Yeah.
But I'll answer the question, and I'll
Sure.
entertain the question, as it were. Um, yeah, you can do that. I mean, if you want a big, heavy, boozy, beer, 10% beer, no problem. Braggot, no problem.
Yeah.
Like we said, a lot of my standard braggots are around 6%. But I know people that make them weaker, and I know people that make them stronger. So there's nothing wrong with that. You can do it. 10% alcohol. There aren't many yeasts that won't handle 10% with ease. So I don't think you're going to have to take a more tolerant yeast. I mean, most beer yeasts can handle 12% fairly easily. So, if not higher. So again, I don't think you're going to have too much trouble here in the yeast selection. Let's see, nutrients. There's a couple different schools of thought on nutrients and pitch rates. I take the simplest approach, and that is really there was a series of experiments that some guys did. I wish I could remember their name. Back in probably the mid teens, like 2015, something like that.
Yeah.
And they broke down all of the common beer things people do, and just, well, what if we didn't do this? Would that
Alter?
would that really alter it? So, for example, they said, what if we didn't rack our beer into secondary? What if we just left it in primary and then went to the bottling bucket versus going to secondary? Very little impact on the beer. I mean, almost none. And frankly, if you're worried about the oxidizing or contaminating, something like that, you're better off not to. So, but even if you can do those things correctly, very little. They talked about building up a starter for most beers, like not a big barley wine or an imperial stout or something, but for most beers, building up a starter versus just tear and pitch, right? So tearing your either dry yeast or liquid yeast and pitching, very little difference. Almost the most discerning palates could pick up something. And they did a series of experiments like this and basically said, you can take the most simple approach. You can just stay in primary. You can just, rip and pitch. You can, do all of these things, and it's going to have little to no impact on your final product. Again, if you got good procedures and good processes and that kind of thing. Okay, bring it back to this question. So this is where I'm saying I wouldn't worry about the nutrients. If what you've done is in the past has firmed your beer well, you're not going to need to add more nutrients. I wouldn't add more nutrients. If you did like whatever, an eighth of a teaspoon of whatever, and that's your standard protocol, you can just do that. Maybe a little bit more if you want to, but you don't need to get crazy on it.
Mm-hmm.
The second thing with building up your starter, you're going to be fine. I mean, a lot of these, I mean, yeah, you for 10%, I mean, you're kind of on that threshold. Okay, do I wanna build the starter up? Is it going to be beneficial or not? It ferments. So honey ferments really well in beer when it's got the like the malt backbone to it, that the nutrients in the malt. I wouldn't worry about it, especially if it's a yeast that's known to chug. So, US05, any of the Kvikes, some of those yeasts that are just, saison yeast. I mean, something that's known to just go at it. Any of the Belgian yeasts, you're not going to worry about it. If there's really finicky yeast out there, I mean, maybe you might want to build up a starter, but again, here simple is going to be the best way to do it. And if this is what you want, no problems at all with what from my point of view.
Yeah, good deal. Jeff, this next one is probably more up your alley than any of the three of us here, or the two of us left. Me and Ryan. The show is lucky enough to have a BJCP qualified judge sitting at the table with us. This one starts out, how do you know by taste if you need to let your mead sit longer? Just tried my batch for the first time, and it's been sitting for about a month, but it has a weird aftertaste, almost like a perfume taste. I'm wondering if that's a sign it just needs to sit longer. I'm going to say probably, but then I don't know what the protocols were, such as the yeast nutrient. I don't know anything more about the recipe, which would help. But I think underneath there,
Sure.
but between the lines, there's probably something that's right up your alley that you might be able to deal with as far as taste.
Mm-hmm. So, first off, the main thing you're going to taste if you need to let your mead sit longer is yeast. If you're tasting yeast is in the solution, it's still active and not dropping out, it just needs to keep going. He mentions having a kind of a perfumey aftertaste.
Mm-hmm.
I could see that going a few different ways. The one that immediately springs to mind is kind of that alcohol-y burn flavor, but
Yeah.
he says it's an aftertaste more than a flavor or like a sensation. So this might be a case of like fusels or other heavy alcohols that are going in, and you can kind of age those out sometimes if you're really, really patient with it. Sometimes not. I'm not sure letting it sit another couple months is going to help as much as just putting it in bottles and forgetting about it for a year. That's probably your better bet if you've got that kind of heavy alcohol thing going on. As far as weird aftertastes go, one of the ones that really stands out to me is kind of that it's that yeast autolysis where the yeast has just been kind of sitting and it's been eating dead yeast, and it gives you that slightly bitter kind of acrid aftertaste that's just, it's funky. It's hard to really describe, but you know it when you taste it. And there is unfortunately no real way of getting around that. If you've got that in your meat, it's pretty much always going to be there. Your best way forward, if you want to even save that batch, is to try and blend it with something that has a lot of really strong flavor to it. And you could do a fruit, some really heavy spices, something like that. You can also try back sweetening it. And when you're trying a mead that is fresh out of the fermenter, I think another thing to recommend trying, just pull yourself a small glass sample, half a cup, something like that. Try adding a little bit of honey or even table sugar if that's what you got on hand, just to see what sweetness brings to the table and what sweetness brings out. Because, like we've talked about so many times before, a lot of the flavors in a beverage, especially fruit flavors, don't present properly if they don't have the sweetness to stand on.
Right. Yeah, good. Good stuff there. And I don't know whether it's old school thinking or not or whatever, but 1 month is a little too young for me. I mean, I know that there's guys out there, that can make a mead in like 12 days. We've had people on the show that they can do that. I'm all for letting things sit and age out a little bit. Let the to me, it's like cooking. It's like like putting a good stew together. I never eat a good stew on right after the same night that I put it in the pot. I ate it the next night. It tastes so much better. When everything comes together, everything sits in the pot and melds together. But anyway, I can go on and on about that. Talking about maple syrup, okay? Maple syrup mead. Just wondering. Of course, they got a name for that. I believe it's called Acerglyn, if I'm not mistaken, Jeff.
Yep, Acerglyn.
Maple syrup mead. Just wondering what you all would think of a wine or mead made with maple syrup. For me, well, I'll get to that in a minute. I've been making mead with 100% honey over the last couple of years with great success, and was wondering what it would be like with maple syrup, or if it was even worthwhile. No. That's my simple answer. I did this a long time ago. I had a really nice mead going, and I thought I'm gonna make a maple mead. So I spent like $75 and had this Vermont maple half-gallon of maple syrup shipped to me. I put the whole thing in, with the honey and the ferment. I didn't get any maple flavor at all. None. Zero. Zilch. I would have been better off saving it and putting it over, a waffle for the next 8 months. The problem with maple syrup, and you two can correct me if I'm wrong, but you dump it in there along with your honey and your yeast and everything else. The maple syrup is probably the first thing the yeast is going to eat, and it's going to eat all of it, every single bit of it. Okay. The best meads that I've taken now, besides what I'm drinking here tonight from Amongst Mead, all right, I've had a couple of other maple meads, but how they achieve that maple flavor in the end is by back sweetening with maple syrup. Okay, then you get tons of maple flavor. So Jeff, I'm going to throw this one over to your desk again. I don't know that maple syrup is a maple syrup mead. I mean, to me, that's not a primary source of fermentation for me. It's going to be a secondary thing after fermentation, after I've stabilized it. If I want that maple syrup flavor, that nice rich maple flavor, I'm going to put it in way after I stabilize.
Yeah. Give me just a second. There's a helicopter going overhead.
Is it my helicopter? Are they looking for me?
You're in the wrong part of the country. So, yeah, when it comes to maple syrup, I've gotten into discussions with folks online that say, oh, yeah, you can just put maple syrup into the fermenter and you'll get a maple flavor.
Mm-hmm.
I've not done a lot of experimenting with it. I will say I don't think that's the best way to do it, even if they are getting some maple flavor. I think, like you've already said, if you're going to make a maple mead, you've almost got to back sweeten with it, because maple is another one of those flavors where unless the sugar sweetness is there, it's not going to taste right. And, for anybody that's had real maple syrup as opposed to like the corn syrup with maple flavoring from the supermarket, you know how potently sweet that is. Like when I'm having pancakes or waffles or something with maple syrup, I barely drizzle just a little bit over there just to get a little taste of it, because it will
seriously sweet.
It will kill me.
Yeah,
it's very, very sweet. So your mead is not going to taste like maple syrup unless you've got a lot of sweetness behind it.
Yeah.
The way to get the maple flavor, absolutely, to my way of thinking, is back sweetening. The other thing, and it's a total fake out, but it's a great fake out. What was our secret ingredient last year at the R&B?
Oh my God! That you just nailed it with this Monk's Mead. You just nailed it. Oh my God! Why didn't I think of that? Fenugreek.
It could be. I didn't really taste the fenugreek in there, but there are a lot of ways to skin that cat too. And I mean, I played with a like a cold process, kind of a what do I want to say, like a dry hop with the fenugreek seeds. I played with a more like a tea process, and either of those could have been a contender there. But yeah,
Wow.
no, fenugreek is a great way to get that kind of vanilla, or that maple-y flavor. I think when they have the imitation maple flavoring, I think that's one of the primary constituents of it, actually.
Yeah. Ryan, get your 2 cents in on this maple thing. Like I said, I've always been, I mean, everything I've read, I've done here at the house. I mean, maple syrup is just one of those most difficult things to work with, unless you put it in like a back sweetening agent to, one, sweeten up a meat or that and get that maple flavor. I mean, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, maple is kind of a fun flavor to play with. I've seen some different beers that have said that they've got a maple flavor. There's some of these pancake meads that will kind of have a maple flavor to them. I think you've seen some wines or some whiskeys as well that say they have a maple flavor to them. So it's a popular flavor. It's a fun flavor. Yeah, it ferments completely out. So, Amaretti. I'm sorry. I was gonna say Amaretti has a maple extract. You can just buy a maple extract from Amaretti. You can do that. Otherwise, I was gonna say Dutch Gold. We'll sell you a 5-gallon pail of maple syrup. You can do that.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I think that maple is a fun flavor to play with. It's something that you think about like vanilla, and that you just you add it a little bit at the end, to kind of get the flavor you like. It complements well with other flavors. It brings that out a little more. So, yeah, I like I said, if I was trying to make a maple mead, and I have made some meads of maple before, I'd probably just go with the Amaretti right now or something like that,
Yeah.
and put a drop in at the end while I'm once it's all the way out, and create my flavor profile that way. I'm gonna leave it there.
There you go. This next one, Ryan, is actually probably up your alley. I've had some experience with it. It's a real simple question. I caramelized honey today, and it smells like marshmallows. Did I do it right? The simple answer, yes.
Yes. Yes, you did.
If you want to attract all the kids in the neighborhood to your house, caramelize some honey and get it to smell like marshmallows. Ryan, take it off, man.
Yeah, I haven't done a boucher in a while, but I do it by scent. Some guys do it by time. Some guys have a candy thermometer in there and all that kind of thing. I trust the schnoz.
Yeah,
that's my tool of choice.
There's no doubt.
And when I hit the toasted marshmallow scent, that's when it's done. Boom. That's what I'm looking for. That's what I want. I know it's going to be right there, and we take it off the heat, and we're done. So yes, I'd say if it smells like marshmallows, that's great, because that what it means is you didn't burn it. You didn't burn it. You didn't make tar.
Yeah. Yeah. You didn't let your 12-year-old stick it into the fire and laugh because the whole marshmallow is in flames at the end of the stick. So, but yeah, I mean, if it smells like marshmallows, absolutely, you're on the right track. And if that's where you want to stop, hey, you got some really tasty caramelized honey, I'll tell you. Sometimes it even tastes like a marshmallow if you really think about it. But good stuff. Jeff, we're going to skip down. I know you got some Reddit friends that you want to bring into the show here. So why don't we start off with, it looks like Samuel Springer? Or is this actually, yeah. Or no,
Yeah.
Dutchy 993, I guess it is.
Oh yeah, JD, I thought you might have some words of wisdom on this one here. Dutchy993 over at the
I see
Reddit
it.
Mead forum.
Stop.
Says
Stop.
fall mead.
Stop. I see it. I see the word. I see the word. Okay. Now we're going way back. Okay. I see what you're doing here,
Yep.
Jeff. Okay. I get it. Go ahead.
So, fall mead. All right, all. I've been tasked by a buddy to take on a pumpkin mead. Well, I've made a delicious crispy hydromel on tap via at Doing the Most. That's a YouTube channel, I think. But I want to kick it up a notch. I love Oktoberfest. I want to get close to that. I was thinking this: 2 pie pumpkins, cooked, cooled, 2 cinnamon sticks, 2 cloves, 5 gallons of water, 5 pounds of honey, making this pumpkin fall beverage that hits right where it needs to. Please help.
So the pumpkin. Let me tell you about pumpkin. Okay. Here's the thing about a pumpkin meat. Okay. You got the spices down pat here: cinnamon sticks, cloves. I even add some nutmeg. I wouldn't put the nutmeg in early. I'd put it in late. Like in secondary. Get a couple of nutmeg nuts and just with a hammer, just put them in a little wrap and break them up. You don't want to do the rasp thing and shave off nutmeg into your thing and let you put them in like a tea bag or something. You could do it that way. I usually when I've done stuff with nutmeg, I just take the nut and just break it up in little chunks and then put it in a little nylon bag and put it in secondary. The pumpkin. Let's talk about the pumpkin for a minute, okay? I've done the pumpkin thing, okay? I had a really bad experience with pumpkin. You'd have to probably go back, way in the beginning of the show, where we talk about my pumpkin meat. But here's the thing about pumpkin, okay? You're going to get little to no flavor out of the pumpkin itself. I don't care if you can roast it, do whatever you want. Put the brown sugar on it. That brown sugar is going to be like one of the first things that the yeast is going to eat. Not a lot going to be left out of that when it's over and done with. What the pumpkin will do for you, though, is add an incredible mouthfeel, okay? But you got to watch how much you put in. The other, if you're using like a whole pumpkin, I would cut it up in chunks, roast it, but not roast. I wouldn't roast it until it's like mushy, like a mashed potato. I would roast it partially, and then throw it in a bag, and then throw it in your fermenter. Okay, you're going to generate some really nice mouthfeel that way. The problem with using canned pumpkin, you've heard us talk on a show about using purees and that kind of thing. If you want to build up an incredible amount of crap on the bottom of your fermenter, then dump a few cans of pumpkin pie into your meat. Okay, that's a waste of time. Okay, don't do that. Please don't do that. All right, you're going to wind up with so much sludge at the bottom of your fermenter. 5 gallons, you'll be lucky to get 3 gallons of liquid off of it. So, take it from me. I've been there and done that. If you want some good mouthfeel out of a pumpkin, then use good pumpkin, a pumpkin pie pumpkin, not the jack-o'-lantern pumpkin, wrong pumpkin, and roast it off, but not all the way through, okay? Yeah, you can throw some brown sugar on it, what the heck. But the spices, that's where it's at. All right, you get that nice mouthfeel coming from that pumpkin, that cooked pumpkin, along with some of those pumpkin spices, and we all know what those are. Then you got something going. Anybody else?
Yeah.
Did I cover
don't
it?
use pumpkin. The trick that I have found, if you're actually going to make a pumpkin mead, and you're dead set on using actual fruit, vegetable,
Yeah,
I forget exactly botanically which one it is, the pumpkin. I want to say it's the squash family, so it's technically a vegetable, but it's so sweet that
it's in the squash. Yeah, it's
like
a squash.
It should be.
It's definitely a squash. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Don't use pumpkin. Use butternut squash. And here's why. Butternut squash has a nearly identical flavor when you roast it up with the pumpkin, and it has about 25% more sugar by mass than pumpkin does.
There you go.
To my way of thinking, it's also just a little easier to work with. You still got to get through that thick skin, but it cubes up really nicely once you've got it kind of all peeled up and ready to go. You can roast it, throw it in there. You're still going to get a huge amount of product loss, but it comes with the territory. If I were going to do that today, I would completely forget about using any kind of squash in my meat, whether it's pumpkin or butternut. And I would just go to Amaretti, because that product loss is killer. And Amaretti, like I haven't looked at their website in a little while, but I'm almost certain they've got either a pumpkin pie or something similar flavor syrup that you could add to the meat in back sweetening, and do it by taste, little at a time, get you right where you want to go. It's so much less effort, and really at the end of the day, you want an enjoyable drink that's not going to make you want to pull your hair out. I think that's the way to do it.
Yeah. You know, one last comment about the, even using canned pumpkin. I've seen guys, they take the canned pumpkin, spread it all out on a cookie sheet, on a piece of foil, and stick it in the oven and they bake it off. All right, same thing's going to happen. All right, when you dump that all into the fermenter, okay, you're going to wind up with so much crap on the bottom of the fermenter. Like in a 5-gallon batch, you'll be lucky to pull 3 gallons off of that batch. It's just just don't do it. Don't do it. Get your pumpkin flavors from the spices. The mouthfeel, like just even using a squash. I mean, that's going to help the butternut squash. That's going to tremendously help the mouthfeel tremendously. Ryan, I don't know if you got anything to add to that. Throw your 2 cents in.
I'm still trying to figure this one out. He said, I love Oktoberfest, so I want to get close to that.
Yeah.
I've never had an Oktoberfest that tasted like pumpkin.
Why?
And I've had some very liberal interpretations of Oktoberfest, but I've never had a pumpkin Oktoberfest. So I've just been pondering that the last few minutes while you guys have been giving your advice. But I got nothing. I got nothing to add to that. I got nothing to say, so we might as well move on.
Gotcha. All right. Hey, Jeff, one more. LME to honey ratio for braggot. This is by Maverick.
Yeah.
Or
Maverick _ AC. Yeah. Maverick or Maverick. Maverick, I think. Anyway, LME to honey ratio for a braggot. Hi, all. I used to make mead / cider, but on a whim I picked up a kilogram of dark malt extract and an ounce of Fuggle hops. Just wondering what a good ratio for LME to honey is for a braggot without having it be too overly malty. Wanted to make a 3-gallon batch. I was originally going to do 4.4 pounds or 2 kilograms of honey, which would make it roughly 7% ABV. What would adding 1 full kilogram of LME bring me up to? Going to be using Aufschlag Kveik yeast as well. Not familiar with that strain of Kveik, but yeah. Brian, do you have any thoughts on that?
Hello, Ryan. Ryan's still reading the question.
Give me just exactly. Give me a minute here.
Okay.
We're 80 minutes into the show. We're not at the sobriety level we started at.
Yeah, there you go. I get it.
I'd have to do the math on kilograms to gravity and where we're at here. Let's see, so 4.4 pounds of honey. What's going to add another 2.2 pounds of malt going to bring it up to? I don't know. Use Brewer's Friend. I mean, that's free. But he doesn't want to be too malty. No, It looks like his ratio is going to be 2 parts honey to 1 part malt.
That's what I'm looking at.
2 parts honey to 1 part malt is not going to give you too much malt at all. It's not going to be malty. It's going to be actually rather light body. It's very light body. I mean, it doesn't matter the. A lot of people think the darkness of the grains has a huge impact on the thickness of the beer. You know, like the heaviness of the beer, I should say. That's not necessarily true. It's kind of like wines. Like people think red wines are a certain way and white wines are a certain way. Well, I could blindfold you and give you a red wine and a white wine, and I bet you I can confuse you on which one's which if you get the preconceived notions.
Mm-hmm.
Well, same thing with this. A lot of people think dark beers are the heavy, thick, full-bodied stuff, and the light beers aren't. Well, I've made white stouts. I've made stouts that are very light in color but have all of that heaviness, thickness, body. And I've made Schwartz beers, which are black pilsners, which again, if you were blindfolded, you wouldn't have any idea that it was, you couldn't read, see through it. So, because there's different, I won't go into it past that. We'll leave it at the top line there. But so, if he's worried about the dark malt extract, being maltier than a light malt extract, you don't necessarily have to worry about that. I don't, maybe there's specific styles, specific brands that might be a little bit different, but a lot of the malt extracts all start off at the same gravity, and doesn't matter what they are. Okay. So with that, even when I do 50-50, like 1-to-1 ratio of malt to honey, it comes out really light bodied. So if you're going to do a 2-to-1 honey to malt and you're going to use a Kveik yeast, that, is going to have no problem. 7%. It's going to devour it, and you're going to end up with something really light, really probably crisp. And I think the Fuggles are actually an interesting choice there, depending on how you use them. I think you come up with something really nice, maybe along the lines of something reminiscent of I don't want to say an English mild, because that's, I don't know if people think about a style, but yeah, some of the really nice things that you might find in an English ale, might be present there, and it could be pretty fun.
There you go.
Yeah.
I was reading this one, and I actually think I'm going to skip over it because this is like really deep, and I just don't feel like going really deep. We'll try to tackle this one maybe next time around. However, adding jam instead of fruit for my second batch of mead, I wanted to add mango. Nice choice. Also, a friend told me about caramelized honey in mead. We just got off of that here a couple of questions ago. So I thought, why not combining the two and make mango jam to add to my mead? I know it'll probably restart fermentation. Current ABV is 7%. So I'll have an airlock and everything. What do you think? Well, my first... I don't know, Ryan. My first thing is, are you making a mango jam mead? Why would you want to make a mango jam? Why wouldn't you just want to get some, like, maybe dehydrated or dried mangoes, or a real mango, if that's what you want to do, and you could put some during fermentation. You throw some in secondary, and I know you'll get a nice mango flavor. So, what do you think?
Well, I studied law, so sometimes I fixate on words that that only someone that studied the law would fixate on.
Yeah.
And I'm fixating on this word here that says or this why not combining the two and make mango jam to add to my mead. So again, if I'm reading this as as a if the legalese, I'm going to say you're saying that you're making the jam to or for the purpose of adding to my mead. Yeah, I mean, so if I interpret it that way, I'm going to say no. Don't make jam for the purpose of adding it to your mead.
Right.
Add the mango to your mead. Add the mango and add the caramelized honey, and I think that'd be fantastic. I mean, maybe you want to caramelize the mango too. Slice up the mango, throw it on your grill, and and toss that in. That sounds fantastic. But if you didn't mean you're solely making the jam for the purpose of adding it to your mead, and you're saying, hey, I'm making a large batch of mango jam, or I have mango jam, and I'm going to add some of that mango jam to the mead. Oh, that's different. I'm going to assume that you're going to use, a large portion of your mango jam and, on your English muffins and that kind of thing. And that's fine. You can go ahead and do that. I've only had one experience in adding jam. It's actually marmalade to a mead. I was doing a pantry clean out mead or a freezer clean out mead, and I just, like I said, throwing everything in there, let's clean out this thing. And I had some orange marmalade that had been in there for a little while. I was like, I'll just throw this in. Might as well, it's a clean out mead. And it was fine. I mean, it was such a small amount that I don't think I got any of the effects if there had been anything negative that was going to happen. But I've never used jam or jelly or marmalade or anything like that in a mead. So I don't know what to tell you about what would happen, if you were to do that. I could surmise, but I don't know. You guys have any idea?
I'd rather put my mango jam on my toast in the morning, Jeff. What do you think?
So, I have some thoughts on this as well. For one, let's just assume that he's got mango jam sitting around, and he's going to use that as like the primary mango flavor. JD, I know you make jams and jellies and stuff like that in your free time.
Yep.
And you've probably had that thing where you have to add pectin to get it to set right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yep.
It just occurs to me that you're going to have a cloudy, nasty mess if you try to put a pectin-heavy jam into a mead. I've never tried this myself, especially not as a primary fermentable. But I would think you would have to dose that heavy with the pectination, the pectin enzyme, whichever you want to call it.
Yeah, mangoes,
to get that anywhere close to clear.
Yeah.
So the other thought is when he's saying make a mango jam for a mead, I'm wondering if he's actually talking about going through the entire process of making a jam, or if it's more like he's going to put the fruit in a pot on the stove and use heat to kind of just break it down and make more of like a pulp or a puree kind of a thing that he's going to throw in there next, which might be a valid approach. I don't know if you guys remember, we had Ravi and his brew partner from Redidon a while back. I want to say like pretty early in the whole shutdown COVID thing.
Yeah.
He talked about using a kind of it was a canned mango puree that he got at a local Indian market.
Right. Yeah.
If that's the approach, I would just do that. Again, just simplify your life a little bit.
Yeah.
It may not be as fresh, but if you just want a mango pulp or puree, you can save yourself a lot of work and get a perfectly serviceable thing to do that way. I still like Ryan's idea of grilling it more than I like the idea of just breaking it down in a pot or using a puree, though. That sounds like fun.
Well, yeah, and and the key part of this whole thing is he's actually adding it to something that's already going, because he says it'll probably restart. Actually, it sounds like he's adding it to something that's already been fermented, and because he knows it'll probably restart the fermentation. So, I mean, if the jam is, and I agree with the pectin thing, because mango is one thing that you actually have to add pectin to make it jam up. So then you got to deal with that. Okay, the meat is definitely going to be cloudy, but adding it as a flavor component after the fact. I mean, if that's what you want to do, I don't have a problem with that. Yeah,
Well,
it'll if you haven't stabilized it, sure, it's going to restart fermentation, and all the sugars out of that mango jam are going to disappear, and you're going to be left with possibly a nice mango flavor. I don't know, but hey, do it. Report back. Tell us how it worked out. We'd love to hear from you. How's that?
absolutely. And one more thought here. If we're going to add it late, Costco has that mango nectar. I forget exactly how much it is, but you can get like a gallon of that pretty cheap. I think like
There you go.
$5-6.
Yeah,
Back sweeten with that.
yeah, yeah. That sounds good.
I
Hey.
think we've thrown like 6 different ways to skin this cat out, and he's going to be knocking on our door here any minute. But
There you go. Last one for the night, guys. And this is kind of a no-brainer here. Adding honey a few days into primary fermentation. Mistake, normal, acceptable, all of the above. It just all kind of depends. The outgoing gravity is 1070. I think he's pretty safe there. And I'm not sure if I'll be happy with that. I'm not sure I'll be happy with that at the end. I've been trying to figure out if I should add fruit or extra sugar. No, don't add extra sugar or honey. I was originally going to add fruits and secondary. Okay, this is like going all over the place. So yes, it's okay to add more honey during primary fermentation. Okay, in small amounts, staggered. Okay, I make it a habit when I'm working on a braggot. I never put my honey in up front, ever, never. I do my, if it's a boil where I want to boil my hops or whatever, I do that first. Get the malt, in and everything. And if I want to do a hops in or whatever, I let the malt and all that take care of itself. Then after high krausen, that's when I add the honey, but little bit at a time. So yeah, it's okay to add honey into primary after it's gotten going. Just keep an eye on it. Add it at small, maybe every other day. Keep an eye on the gravity. You don't want to stress the yeast out. It's like I look at it this way. It's like overfeeding a toddler, and then eventually they just puke it all up, and nothing happens. Okay, so. That's the way I kind of look at it, Ryan. I mean, adding honey during fermentation. I mean, you do it. I know you do it. Okay, would somebody kind of nudge Ryan there at the end of the table? And
I'm laughing at your toddler analogy. I didn't want to laugh over you, so I muted it for a second there because I was laughing so hard. The like my kids, they'll finish a meal and then clean their plates clear their plates. And then as soon as they clear their plates, they'll ask for a snack. So,
yep.
Yeah.
I was laughing at that one. Yeah, I mean, step feeding is something we do in a lot of different ways. I mean, with meads, if you want to get the higher gravity, with braggots. I mean, my Belgian quad braggot. I mean, I had to step feed to get it where I wanted it. Even if you're making different kinds of a beer or a braggot or a mead, we had who was that? Brian Height from Sui Generis on about talking about the candy syrups and the candy sugars.
Yeah.
You will always, always, always get a better flavor, whether you're making a beer, a mead, or a braggot with candy sugar, if you add it at the tail end of fermentation. So yeah, I mean, when I a very simple thing here. I mean, I really like Belgian like doubles and triples and that kind of thing. And you're using your candy sugar. I add that after high krausen. Like sometimes you add high krausen. I wait till after high krausen, and then I add the candy sugars, and then I mean, you'll just be amazed at the flavor difference, the flavor quality you get.
Yep.
So I mean, you can do it because you want to get better flavor. If you've got a really super flavorful honey, something that's just really amazing and exotic or something, you're probably going to want that. Again, add that after the most vigorous fermentation has taken place. Or if you're something and you're like, hey, I want to get this up to 16 or 18%, then yeah, you're going to have to step feed so that your yeast isn't overwhelmed and you're building that up, and you can do that. So the philosophy of doing it is sound. Now you just got to ask yourself why you're doing it, what you want to get out of it.
Yeah. Jeff, final thoughts.
Well, yeah, reading this post, it sounds like he's saying he's got to start in gravity at 1070, and he's not sure he's going to be satisfied with that. It sounds like he's wanting something a little bit more alcoholic. In which case, yes, it's totally fine to add a little more honey, a little at a time, however you want to do it, to bump that gravity up and give yourself a little bit more finishing alcohol. Because 1070, if I remember right, if that dries out totally, you're going to get in the neighborhood of like 8.5%, maybe 9%. It's not quite 10%. So, I know we've all had that aspiration of just making something really alcoholic. It's just not going to knock your socks off. But that seems like what he's going for here. He also mentioned adding fruit or honey. And I think adding fruit to bump up your alcohol content is a mistake for two reasons. For one, all that sugar in the fruit is going to ferment out. And like we talked about at least twice this episode, without the sweetness, the fruit doesn't taste right.
Right.
Once you ferment the sugar out of something you're used to tasting, it doesn't taste the same. You need some of that fruit, whether it's stuff you set in secondary or it's got to have some residual sweetness one way or the other in order to present. And if you put it in primary, it's all that fructose in the fruit is going to just ferment right out. You're going to be left with something that's vaguely reminiscent of fruit, but not really there. The other thing I will tell you about putting fruit into primary to bump the alcohol content is it's not going to work, because if you think about the sugar content of whole fruit, I guarantee you in almost every case, the water content of whole fruit is higher than the sugar content. You're just going to be diluting your must.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that 12%
more alcohol. If you want more alcohol, it's honey, it's candy sugar. Yeah, the fruit is not the way.
Yeah, so that 12% you were looking for just turned into 9%. Gee, where did I go wrong?
Right. Yeah.
Oh my
At
God.
least the taste.
Hey, if you didn't think this show was entertaining, you need to start watching reruns of All in the Family. I don't know what. Hey, that's going to do it for this episode here in the Mead House. Hey, we're glad to be back, and we're glad you're listening and hanging out with us here at the Mead House. But hey, don't forget, let us know what you're brewing. You can email us, info@themeadhouse.com, or just send us a message on Facebook. A lot of guys are doing that. And the Twitter deal at the Mead House. So in the meantime, happy mead making. That's what we say here at the house. That's it for this episode. Hey, Ryan, flip the lights off. Jeff, slam the door. Do we even need to lock the door anymore? I don't know. But hey, we'll be back next week with episode number 171 of the Mead House. Hey, we're gone.